Welcome back to Enter the Supply Chain World. I am Vikas Kumar, and over the last two episodes, we have been understanding about supply chains and the five key players who run them: suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, retailers, and consumers. But here is something we never stopped to ask: what exactly are they all moving? We kept saying products. The supplier supplies raw materials, the manufacturer makes a product, the retailer sells the product. But what is a product really? And this is exactly what we are going to understand today, and more importantly, the different forms a product takes as it travels through the supply chain. Because the same material can look completely different depending on where we are standing in the chain. Let's understand what a product is. A product is anything that can be made, bought, sold, or used to satisfy a need or a want. The chair we sit on is a product. The water we drink is a product. The phone in our pocket is a product. The bread on our table that we eat is a product too. But now let us go one level deeper because products come in two different forms, and those two forms are goods and services. A good is something physical, something we can touch, hold, carry, and store. For example, a chocolate bar, a pair of shoes, a bottle of water, a car. Goods can be picked up, packed, shipped, and put on a shelf. They have weight, they take up space, and because of that, they need a supply chain to move them from where they are made to where they are needed. A service, on the other hand, is something we cannot touch or store. It is an action or an experience that someone provides us. For example, a haircut, a doctor's consultation, an internet connection, a flight from one city to another. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Services also have supply chains, just very different ones. A hospital needs medicines, equipment, and trained staff to deliver its service. An airline needs fuel, aircraft parts, and food to serve its passengers. So, even behind every service, there are goods moving through a supply chain somewhere. That's why most of the time we talk about supply chains, we are primarily talking about goods, physical things that are made, moved, stored, and sold. Let's think about it. Look around us right now. How many goods can you count? How many services did we use today without even thinking about them? Goods in a supply chain exist in three different forms. Let us go through each one of them. The first form of goods is called raw materials. Raw materials, as we have already discussed, are goods in their most basic unprocessed form. They come directly from nature or from very basic production. Examples include iron ore dug from the ground, cotton picked from a field, crude oil pumped from the earth. Raw materials have not been turned into anything useful yet. They are the starting point. Think of it like the ingredients before the cooking begins. The second form of goods is work in progress, often mentioned as WIP or WIP. Work in progress refers to goods that are in the middle of being made. They are no longer raw materials, but they are not finished products either. They are somewhere in between. Imagine a car factory. The steel has been shaped into a car frame, the engine has been fitted, But the seats are not in yet. The paint has not been applied. That half built car sitting on the factory floor, that is work in progress. Or think of a bakery. The dough has been mixed and shaped into rolls, but they have not gone into the oven yet. That dough is work in progress. Work in progress matters in supply chain because it represents money that has been spent but has not yet become a product that can be sold. Managing work in progress well is a big part of running an efficient factory. The third form of goods is finished goods. This is the form we are most familiar with. Finished goods are the products that are fully made, packaged, and ready to be sold to a customer. For example, the chocolate bar on the shelf, the shirt hanging in a store, the phone in the new box. Once a product becomes a finished good, it is ready to leave the manufacturer and move through the rest of the supply chain, that is, to the distributor, retailer, and finally to us. Now, let's look at one interesting aspect. The same thing can have three different forms. The same material can be a raw material, a work in progress, and a finished good, depending on where in the supply chain we are looking. Let us take steel as an example. Iron ore is dug from the ground. At this point, it is a raw material. Then, the iron ore is melted and processed into steel sheets inside a steel mill. While it is being processed, still inside the furnace, still being shaped, it is work in progress. Once the steel sheets are fully made and ready to be sold to a car factory, they are a finished good for the steel mill. But the moment those steel sheets arrive at a car factory and the car factory starts using them to build a car, they become a raw material again, this time for the car manufacturer. Same steel, three different identities, all depending on where we are in the chain. Let's think about it. Consider any product we use. Try tracing it backwards. From finished goods to work in progress to raw material it started as. There is one more term, or we can also say form of goods, worth knowing: component. A component is a part that goes into making a finished product, but is itself already a finished product made by someone else. The screen of a phone is a component. It is made by one company, fully finished, and then sold to the phone manufacturer who uses it as a part of the final phone. The tire of a car is also a component. A tire company makes complete tire and sells them to a car factory. The battery inside a laptop is also a component, made separately, finished separately, and then fitted inside the laptop. Components sit between raw materials and finished goods. They are more processed than raw materials, but they are not the final product we buy. They are building blocks. And managing component, making sure that the right one arrive at the right factory at the right time, is a huge part of what supply chain professionals do every single day. Let us put it all together and trace one product through all of these forms. We will use a steel water bottle, something many of us carry every day. Steel is made from iron ore, dug from the ground. At this point, it is a raw material. That iron ore travels to a steel mill. Inside the mill, it is being melted, refined, and slowly shaped into steel sheets. But it is not ready yet. This is work in progress. At this moment, let's take a short detour to understand where the world outside the factory starts to matter. Steel is one of those materials that is deeply tied to global stability. And right now, in early 2026, the ongoing tensions in West Asia are creating real pressure on the cost and movement of raw materials across the world. Shipping lanes are disrupted, freight costs are rising, the price of oil, which powers the ships and trucks that move raw materials, is uncertain. Supply chain professionals around the world are watching this very closely because when the world is unsettled, raw materials are almost always the first thing to feel it. Now, back to our bottle. The steel sheets are now fully made and ready to leave the mill. For the steel mill, this is a finished good. Next, those sheets arrive at a bottle manufacturing facility. Workers cut, shape, weld, and polish them into water bottles. The lid of the bottle arrives separately, made by a different factory. That lid is a component, fully finished by someone else, now being fitted into our bottle. The bottle is complete, labeled, and packed into boxes. It is now a finished good. It moves to a shop, we pick it up, we carry it every day, refilling it instead of buying plastic bottles, quietly doing our bit. That journey from iron ore in ground to a bottle in our hands passed through every single form we discussed today. And somewhere along that journey, the state of the world played a role too. Let us think about it. The next time we read about a conflict or a tension somewhere in the world, let us ask ourselves which supply chains are being affected right now because of this? Let us recap what we discussed today. A product is anything that is made, bought, sold, or used to satisfy a need. Products come in two different forms: goods, which are physical and touchable, and services, which are actions or experiences. Within goods, supply chain deal with three main forms: raw materials, work in progress, and finished goods. We have also looked at component, which is a finished part made by one company and used by another to build a larger product. And remember the concept: the same material can be a raw material, work in progress, or a finished good, depending on where in the chain we are standing. Before we wrap up, here is a trivia. The global raw materials market is worth over $8 trillion annually. Iron, copper, wheat, oil, cotton. These basic materials are traded in enormous quantities every single day, forming the invisible foundation of everything we own.